basically that I was undesirable until the little black boys told me that that's what I was. And
I'm gonna stop right there. That's a lie. See, she's being disingenuous now. That's a lie. All right, you saw the thumbnail. We talking Stephco. She came into prominence about a year ago with a viral video called Pretty Privilege. She's one of those content creators that I just really wanted to take a look at and do a reaction to her content. And I want to say this before we get started. A little bit of house cleaning here. I need you guys to like the content, share it, and also subscribe with all notifications on. It helps me get into the YouTube algorithm. I'm trying to become monetized. So help your boy out and hit that like button, share, and subscribe. All right, with the house cleaning out of the way, we're gonna get our feet wet and jump in with this. Let's go. Let's check it out.
a lot of times, what I find is so interesting when people talk about the concept of Black love, and they talk about specifically what Black women's roles are in this concept. They talk about the allegiance that Black women have to Black men. And I just think about how I grew up, and I think about the fact that I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. And, I knew I wasn't the chosen girl in those neighborhoods.
All right, I'm gonna stop right there. Why were you not the chosen girl in those neighborhoods? Because a lot of what Stephco bases her pathology on is the premise of colorism. So if you're not contained within a Black neighborhood and you're in a white neighborhood, why are you not the chosen girl of that neighborhood, Stephco? That's the question I have first and foremost. When you're in the white neighborhood or when you're in the circle with whites, why are you not the chosen girl? Let's see if she answers that question. Let's jump back in.
There's a really funny TikTok trend where girls will be getting ready to go to a party, and then the text underneath will say, I'm putting on makeup to go to a party at my PWI, my predominantly white institution, my predominantly white college. And I don't know why I'm putting on makeup because I know no one will look at me. So that was very much my reality in some ways when I was growing up, when I would be in white audiences. I knew that I would not be perceived as an object of desire or of attraction initially because, well, I'm too much of an other. I'm too much unlike what they are used to and what they have been taught is beautiful. It wasn't a time.
Okay. So, with that omission, if you're not the chosen one among whites, what's your beef with Blacks, in particular Black males? If the white males looked at you and said, you're not the chosen girl in their circle, then what's the beef with Black males? Is it that you just have an automatic disdain for the Black male and you're less empathetic to the Black male being redeemable when they do things that are not in line with being polite or gentlemanly? Or is it that you just have a natural affinity or attraction for white males and you're willing to redeem them at all costs? The question I need to ask. Let's jump back in.
I went to middle school, and I've told this story before, so I'll tell it again here in this video. And I was introduced to colorism for the first time. I had no idea that I was so dark-skinned, and it was such a terrible thing until I went to middle school and the little Black boys told me that was the case. I had no idea that my forehead was so big, and that was so bad. I had no idea that basically that I was undesirable until the little Black boys told me that that's what I was. And
I'm going to stop right there. That's a lie. See, she's being disingenuous now. That's a lie. Because previously she just said she knew she wasn't the chosen girl. So if you knew you wasn't the chosen girl, you were not desirable. And you can try to put paint on it and try to make it or shape it however you want. But the fact of the matter is you were not the chosen girl when you were in the circle of whites. So now you want to just act like this is some egregious thing that the Black boys did to you when you weren't even the chosen girl in the white circle. You're full of and you're lying. Disingenuous nonsense. Let's jump back in.
So this conflicted. All my life I've grown up with my father praising my mother. She's this black woman, she's this goddess, she's this, she's that. And then I look like her, so I'm this, I'm that.
Of course, it's your father. It's a father's job and duty to make his daughters feel special. Your first point of love from a masculine perspective comes from your father. So it's your father's duty to make sure that that masculine love he gives you makes you feel special. That's why it's important to have fathers in the household, because fathers can do this for their daughters. But to go out on the dating market and pretend that other men are supposed to look at you and treat you special like your father did, you're disingenuous and you're a liar. Stephco, you're just a disingenuous content creator that's trying to monetize so-called victimhood. Let's jump back in.
And I go out in the world and I am pulled apart. My hair is wrong. Like I said, my skin is wrong. And the
Like
only
most of
thing I
us.
found when it came to black men specifically, or the little black boys that I was around at that time, was I was worth some attention when it came to my butt. That was it. So libidinally, I was worth attention, but otherwise, no. On the other side, I will say that I learned that because I wasn't just because I was just kind of an other, but I wasn't necessarily on their shit list like I was with little black boys. Once a white guy spent time with me, whether it was in middle school or high school, feelings could come up and attraction could be formed on a different level. And I was often surprised sometimes at the way I was perceived because I was waiting for the ball to drop. I was waiting for them to tell me I was so dark skinned. I was waiting for them to tell me I was, and I realized they didn't have the vocabulary to use those words against me because they didn't have the same internalized hatred of those features.
Okay. Here's the time where we need to look at things from a historical standpoint. She said that the white boys or the white guys didn't have internalized hatred for those features. In America, here's the thing I gotta ask right now. Who taught black people to hate themselves? Is this something that black people just develop on their own of hating themselves, or was it taught to them from institutionalized racism or white supremacy? See, this is where I have to say she's being very disingenuous. She's playing loosey goosey with the loosey goosey, I should say, with historical facts. She's trying to pretend that the white guys are just these angels and they don't have any perceived hatred or dislike of her features, when it was whites who taught blacks to hate themselves. Like when they made laws that made black women cover up their hair because the white women were offended by it, or when blacks had to have, the black codes where we could and could not go, where we could and could not travel to, all these things, the redlining, the gentrification, the block busting, the chattel slavery stuff. None of this crosses your mind when it comes to, the pathology of white people maybe not having a hatred or disdain for your features. So it's just all internalized hatred from black people that it just fell out the sky and popped out of nowhere. This is what we're supposed to believe now. See, this is the disingenuous shit I'm talking about. You can't even take her serious because from a historical context, she's being very blatant with her lies. Because she's playing on the empathy and the victim card. She's hoping that you look past historical facts and only look at her as a victim. Just stupid, man. Let's go.
I'm not saying that all little white children don't make fun of young black children, because I know I've heard the stories and I've heard the comments. I'm just saying with me romantically, I didn't run into the same opposition when it came to the accepting of how I looked when I was dealing with white men. And this rocked my world. I didn't know how to rectify this. Like, if this group of people are supposed to be the enemy, how come they're the ones that are being nice to me in class? How come they're the ones that are telling me, giving me compliments? I was actually asked to homecoming my senior year of high school, and I thought it was a joke. And I look back at it now and I'm like, you were so mean to him, because I was so convinced. And this was a white guy that asked me, and I thought, he was a football player, and I thought it was a joke. I was like, I'm not here for you to joke around with. Now that I look back and I reflect, I'm like, you had so much internalized like hatred of yourself because you believed in your heart of hearts, like, oh, no one can find me. I'm just this.
Here we go. Here we go. It finally rears its head. Stephco was an itch, and I'm not going to say the word, and I'm not trying to call her that just to be calling someone that word, but it's clear that she had a bad attitude because even when the guys that she so-called say don't mistreat her or haven't done anything to her that was spiteful or didn't like her features, even when those guys asked her, her initial step into that situation was to be belligerent, was to be defensive. Stephco has a problem. She has a self-esteem problem. And it didn't develop because of colorism. It developed because she finally realized when she looked in the mirror and she went out on the dating market. And I don't even understand why she went out on the dating market at such a young age, like middle school. But anyhow, she went out on the dating market and she was served up a reality she doesn't like. And the market is always going to dictate your value. It's going to dictate your value. And she does not like her rating. Stephco, you need to get help. You need to get therapy because clearly you have some issues of self-esteem that you haven't worked through, and you need to get some help. Let's jump back in.
Troll, that even when somebody was connecting with you in a different way, like you didn't know how to recognize it. So it did get better at that over the years, but yeah, for me, black men were never a safe house. They were never I knew I wasn't chosen. I knew it wasn't me. And this did not change as I got older. I found that, when I would go into an audience or to a crowd and it was mostly black men, I was not the celebrated type of black, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I was not the wifey type. I've actually been in conversations with a black man before, and he's been talking about another girl, and he was like, oh, she was fine. She was wifey. She was fine. And I'm just like, I've been told before. I had a black coworker who told me once, yeah, I can't hang out with her. She's too fine. I could go hang out with you or something, get a coffee and be straight. You like the homie. You just, not because I'm not attracted to you. Like he straight up told me.
I think Stephco is having issues with reality. She wants to be something she's not. So what if most guys don't find you attractive? She's not that bad looking. She's average. She's not necessarily someone you would consider a beauty queen, but so what? 90% of people are not considered that. Why do you have such an issue with where you fall on the dating market? Where you rank is where you rank. Now, you can do some things like, throw magic on your face like you clearly did on this video, put that magic all over your face. You can stay in shape. You can have a better attitude, because what I'm starting to sense from Stephco is Stephco has an attitude issue that may be causing her some issues when she interacts with black men. And I think Stephco is one of those people, she thinks too much of herself. She has a high opinion of who she is, and she has a high opinion of what she's accomplished, but that doesn't translate to value on the dating market, and it never will. We have to tell you time and time again, you can go get your education, you can go get a high-powered job, you can get a job that pays you quite well, and you're, living a upper middle class lifestyle, or even a decent lifestyle where you can take care of yourself and you're financially secured. But that's not going to translate to attraction on the dating market. I don't care what you say, how you act, or how you behave. I think Stephco is a disingenuous player. I think she's creating content because it's popular and it's easily to monetize. It's always this niche where people are piling on and talking about black men. I know you hear a lot of black women talking about black women are the subject of bashing, but it's more profitable to bash black men, believe it or not. And I think Stephco is falling in that niche where she's monetizing herself off the backs of black men. Stephco, I see what you're doing. I peeped your game. I think you're a disingenuous, dishonest player. And I think that you really need to do some self-evaluation. I think you need to get therapy, because I think you're a dysfunctional person. And a lot of times when she makes these points about white men, the difference between white men, the difference between black men, where white men don't have this internalized hatred for her features and black men do. I think from a historical context, Stephco is being very disingenuous, because if we look at it from a historical standpoint, it's white men who, through the system of white supremacy, taught blacks to not like themselves. And a lot of people have this thing where they say, don't focus on the past. You can date out, you can swirl. it's different now, and they say don't focus on the past. All that stuff is, from the old days and X, Y, and Z. But let me ask all of you this question, especially you, Stephco, since I'm addressing you. If the past doesn't matter, if the past doesn't have validity or weight, why is it that you go back into your past when you critique or judge black men based on things they did in their adolescence if the past doesn't affect the present? That's something to think about. Man, that's all I got tonight. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Two fingers. Peace.
Like Jesus.